we go. Hi, I made this. It took me roughly 160 hours across 6 months. It is made entirely out of dots, 0.1 size dots to be precise. And its main theme for me is that I fear I may be wasting my time doing this. I've been doing this technique called stippling for the last 13 years. When I first tried it, I swore I would absolutely never do it again. Too time consuming, too difficult. Not difficult in the traditional sense, like mastering oils or acrylics. Those can be more difficult to get a handle on. But difficult in the sense of, wrist pain, the sheer dullness of the thing that can come from it. But soon after, something changed. After finishing the first dot work, a few months later, I realized that I missed it. I missed that frustration because underneath it was just a sea of calm. That repetitiveness, that slow march that required of you to be still and patiently working, that unconsciously appealed to me. So I began another artwork, and then another. And 13 years later, I made this that you're watching right now. What this technique gives me is tranquility and an inner stillness and purpose that nothing else can provide. To say that this is a hobby feels sacrilegious. This is a calling. This is a calling at this point. I've always wanted to be an artist, and with these dots, I found a means of expressing ideas and thoughts and feelings and notions and the whole whirlpool that spins inside. Several years ago, I came upon this phrase, and it has tattooed itself onto my brain ever since. And that phrase is internalized capitalism. In layman's terms, internalized capitalism is the sense that all your free time should be monetized. That measure of your self-worth is measured by productivity. Is your time being spent well? By well, internalized capitalism doesn't mean your well-being, doesn't mean your mental, physical, or spiritual well-being. It means monetary incentive. Why would you read a book when you could just, make money? Why not write reviews for books that you read and build the brand that reviews books? Why play video games in your spare hours when you can just stream it and show it to people? Then you can, maybe build a brand that attracts people, and then they pay you for playing the game. You get the sense by now, because I'm positive you can relate. If you're on this app, I'm pretty sure you can relate. And these 13 years of dotting, I try to make a career out of it. For several years, I tried all I could think of, but it never panned out. Before this, I went to school for graphic design, and that's my trade, my day-to-day job. And it has been for the past 7 years. But I still haven't abandoned the dream of being a full-time artist, a successful artist. And by success, I do not in any way mean fame. Fame is it's something that I not even remotely want. But by successful, what it does equal for me, at least success, is that I can make art my full-time profession and lead a comfortable life. A full mortgage, feed our little family, and occasionally afford a trip somewhere, buy books, a cup of coffee somewhere. That to me is the definition of a successful, that to me is the definition of a dream life, really. And in the last 2 years, we've witnessed the rise of AI and the extreme push behind it. We can discuss ad nauseum the severe unethical practices behind it, how they're scraping all the data off the internet, training their models on copyrighted work without permission, stealing materials left, right, and center, the insane energy costs behind data centers directly impacting and worsening global warming, actual book burnings. But why I mention it here is job replacements. Our fields across all specters, across all fields, have been severely impacted, visual arts obviously not excluded. At first I wasn't particularly worried because, again, I wasn't making any real money from my artwork. But now it has become obvious that my job is on the firing line, eventually. So soon enough I may need to change careers entirely, completely, shifting away from the things which meant fulfillment, joy, and, financial security. All the while, I and all of you were being spoon-fed the rhetoric that this is inevitable, you cannot stop this, as if it literally has a mind of its own and it's not being pushed by insanely power-hungry, greedy, vampire-adjacent oligarchs, who are the only ones to truly benefit from this supposed inevitability. And at this point you can imagine my thoughts swirling just before going to sleep at night. You have internalized capitalism hooking its tentacles into everything I enjoy doing just by living. The pervasive, all-encompassing existential fear of not being able to provide for myself and my family. And then I turn to my right and see my son laying next to us. And I can't help but feel, the effects of global warming, the heat wave, that even during the night does not subside. How this really might be the coldest summer that we'll have from this year forward. And just, what world are we really leaving behind? What world is my son walking into? And this is how this artwork sprung up. All these thoughts went into it, and despite myself and what I know, anticipate, and expect, I can't help myself but keeping that dream alive. I still have ambitions. I still want my artwork to, one day maybe end up in galleries or museums. I wish I could live only by doing this, all the while the world is pointing at a completely different direction. A direction in which art is, demoted to an entertainment product guided by metrics and algorithms and probably AI-generated content for bots to consume and push to the few people left that are watching it. I used to like posting on social media. It has given me opportunities I only silently wished for, but these days I feel like I'm screaming in a void where I have to impress bots into pushing what I post to other bots and, maybe a few people along with it, probably accidentally. And if you're one of them, thank you for being, this far into it, into what is essentially just a rant. That being said, if you see this and if you want to support what I do, and you have means to do so, I have a Patreon. I never advertise it because it feels just like another product. I only have one paying member thus far, so that would be really nice, a little more. You can, like, subscribe, follow, comment, share, all those ways the social media websites operate. If I had anything really to say with this artwork and with everything else I've made, is that, we must keep this art thing alive. You must keep creating, keep making, keep listening to music, keep painting, drawing, sculpting, crafting, dancing, sewing, just keep the human experience alive. Because art is not just entertainment. You know the quote, I forgot the name of the comedian who said that something akin to, art can save you, but entertainment will never be your salvation. You know, a nice little comedy on Netflix is not gonna impact you enough to change your life, but art can, music can. Seeing a painting can make you stop in your tracks and reevaluate everything. A book can completely alter your perception of life. Sometimes it feels like it was written for you. Maybe 200-300 years ago, maybe even a decade, maybe even a millennia. Art is not entertainment. It is our very essence. Above the animal form that fuels our inner lives. It connects us, and especially in this day and age, I think it reminds us that we are never alone in our own experiences. We always share that with others. Essentially, this was just a long rant in my own view and my own artwork, but I felt like I kind of had to get a bit more personal with this one because social media doesn't enable that. It fuels more, glossy, perfect life stills of perfect people. And in this day and age, we don't even know if they're real or not. Anyway, thank you for watching. Like I said, like, subscribe, follow, share, all of those things. Yeah, I'm really grateful for that, don't get me wrong. It just feels like I said, it feels like a void. It feels like an endless void of continuous slop, to use the most modern expression right now. Bye.